Welcome to the Architecting in Stilettos podcast. If you know us, you know us. And if you don't, hello. I'm Arlene Ajurian, joined by Katie Flores.
Hello.
Here at AMK Studio, an architecture and planning firm in sunny SoCal. We typically get invited by developers, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and luxury home builders who are struggling with the big three: maximizing site value and profits, obtaining approvals, and creating the ideal solution that will best achieve their goals. When the final design is as buildable as it is green, creative, and joyful, that's the win-win we're looking for. This podcast is about how we get there. We share stories, focus on real-world, behind-the-scenes challenges, and candid discussions, all while playing well with others. Welcome to episode 8 of Architecting in Stilettos. I'm Arlene, and today's episode is called A Rabbi and a Priest Walk into a Bar. And yes, it's kind of what it sounds like. Over the years, we've designed everything from nightclubs to synagogues to churches, and what fascinates us is how similar these spaces really are. They all require intention, for one. There's always a procession, a focal point, a place for community, and whether it's worship or nightlife, the architecture tells a story. Today, we're diving into what those stories have in common and what they teach us about designing for people, culture, and connection. Let's dive in.
Hello, Katie. Hi, Arlene. Good to see you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We just got through, I think about 4 episodes of the Wildfire series, and thank you to all our guests for their very, generous contributions of time and experience and wisdom.
Heavy topics.
Had to do it.
Yeah.
But now we're excited because we get back to our little banter here.
Yes, exactly.
Just being Katie and Arlene and talking about today, a rabbi, a priest, and a nightclub owner walk into our office. And that might seem really weird, but that's just a Tuesday for AMK Studio.
Exactly. Not the butt of a joke.
That's right. And so this is really not about, I just wanted to say, it's not about comparing religion to nightlife. Right? It's not comparing any one religion to the other. It's not about belittling anybody. But from an architect standpoint, since we work on all of these, we work on restaurants, nightclubs, and all kinds of places for worship.
Yes.
All with joy.
Yes.
And how in the world could all of these things what do they have in common? Right?
Yes.
So that's what we want to talk about today, including, the functionality and what we have as goals for our clients.
Yes.
As well as for their stakeholders.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, these cultures and the rituals and what we're aiming for, let's just get down to the nitty gritty. We're covering the architectural experience.
Yes. It's how you feel in that space. What the function of that space is obviously number one,
right.
But we're trying to help people connect to something deeper, whatever that is.
Right. We want to make their daily or their weekly ritual of whether it's worship, for some people it's going out to a nightclub. Mm-hmm. We want to make that something that's exciting, something that's meaningful, something that allows them to connect, whether it's with themselves,
gathering,
a higher power,
yeah,
or it could be that they just want to be elevated to a different frequency of being, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's dancing sometimes.
Absolutely.
And the connection with community, like you said, that's huge.
Yeah.
And there's always a facilitator.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't mean, again, to belittle anything, but in a synagogue, it is like the facilitator who is the connection between the higher power and the community. Obviously, the rabbi and the rebbitzin.
Yeah.
Then we've got the priest in our church systems.
Yep.
Right? Which is great. Some priests are more popular than others, so I get it. I want to go to this person's sermon sometimes because he's funnier.
Right. More progressive, more whatever. It's going to have a different vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
And then going all the way to the nightclub, right? There is going to be the facilitator there, which is like, it might be a combination there between what the space looks like, but they could also have an opening act. They could have a DJ. They could have something, a show that I really, really want to see.
Exactly. I mean, or it could just be your bartender.
Yeah. So, but then coming down to the spaces.
Yeah.
So there's like this thing that we have to go through. And in our experience, you break them up into the entire thing, all the way from arriving on site, which looks like what? Like, so if I've got a church or a synagogue, right? And usually a nightclub can have varying kind of things. A restaurant can have varying kind of things. But what's my first line of impression? What's my first impression that's made when I get to a church or a synagogue?
It's from the street most of the time, right? I mean, you might be able to see a tower, see a bell tower,
right?
See some piece of the structure from a distance as you approach. And so that architectural element, right? I mean, historically, it was a cathedral, right? You have Notre Dame with these these high towers. And so that you can see it from across town, right? It becomes that approach starts very far away, which is a much different experience than the nightclub where you're just walking up to a bouncer.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you can see the nightclub sometimes. You can see the lights. You can hear that which is like, oh, so good, right? But so then that said, then if my first impression is, let's say, the site of whatever I'm like, the building from a distance, while I get close to it, I go through a gate.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, it's sad to say that there's racism and xenophobia and all of that stuff, and we need to protect these facilities from vandals or who knows what in the off hours. So there's going to be a fence most of the time, right? I mean, we live in California. It's sad to say, but that's the reality, right? We're going to have homeless people try to camp out in your parking lot. I got to put a fence up.
Right. And usually there's somebody at the fence. Yeah. I call them a security guard. You call them
I want them to be a greeter because on Sunday morning or Saturday, whatever day your service is on, when I arrive, I don't want to feel like I don't want them to feel like a bouncer who's going to be like checking me, like you can't come in to church on Sunday. But,
I think a lot of cultures need to take note. This is a positive spin.
Yeah, call them a greeter.
On the security guard being called a greeter is awesome.
Yeah, because, they're going to be monitoring who's coming and going.
Yeah.
But they can also, give the rest of the team a heads up if there's someone who, maybe someone's coming in who is homeless or someone off the street who might need some help.
Right.
And so we don't want to exclude those people from a religious service. But that's where, we need to let the rest of the, parish or the team know who's coming so that they can get a little extra assistance. Maybe someone's coming with their kids and they need, or grandma or whoever. And we need a little escort help. So
that's incredible because it brings me to the point of no matter what kind of building, it all starts with how do we want people to feel when they walk in?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
How do we want the psychology of this? What is it that we're trying to evoke, even from the very first moment that they step, whether it's on site, but especially when they walk into the vestibule, right? The front door. It's like, it's a vestibule in a synagogue. It's a narthex at the church. And it's a VIP velvet ropes at a nightclub.
Where people are lined up outside.
Right?
Yeah,
or it's a hostess station at a restaurant. It's all there to set an impression of whether or not you want to have like this, luxury feeling, very exclusive thing happening at the nightclub or the restaurant. And sometimes it's, welcoming. Sometimes it's very like posh, and it's like very hush.
It's different.
Right?
Exactly.
It depends on what we're trying to do and who the client is. But the vestibules and the narthexes, they're there and they have other kinds of functions as well. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned one, which is security. So hopefully by the time we get to we feel secure.
We feel safe, secure. We feel secure. We feel welcome. You know.
So at the most, there might be some cameras set up. That's like a tertiary kind of thing.
Level of
But getting to the nitty gritty of the design,
man, it is. It's. I'm just imagining like all kinds of churches and synagogues that I've been in before, but also just any restaurant too. You want to feel like you're transported. You enter that that door, and now I'm in a new place. I'm about to experience something different, something new. And it's you want that portal, right? Like I feel like Doctor Who or something, where I'm like going through something and entering a new dimension. And so I'm in a new place, and it's just that transformation of going through that threshold.
It's the moment where we want someone who's entering to pause, to kind of shift their mindset, and to transition into a different way of being. And that applies to whether this is a church, a synagogue, a nightclub, or a restaurant. Yeah. Restaurant maybe less, but the nightclub for sure. Because I feel like that's one of those things where I can feel like, oh my God, my heart starts racing. Who am I going to see? Yeah. Like, you know, it's like already the music's going. So it's like there's a way of being that you have to transition into. You're not walking into a business meeting. Exactly. It's like, you know, you're ready to party. So that said, all of this, even the entry, is trying to build up the energy, the anticipation. Maybe. Yeah. I love it. The excitement to the grand act. Right. And the act, again, not mocking any religions, but it is the reason why we're there is to, for example, when I'm in a church, it's to go worship. Right?
Yeah. I need to experience something. Right. Yeah.
Right. And if I were talking about a church that is Gothic, right, I'm talking about something that was built, for example, you know, centuries ago, that was purposefully built to inspire awe in people as they entered.
Yeah, you walk in and immediately you're overwhelmed with the grandness, the vertical, exactly, stained glass. Right? Yeah.
And if done well, and you might notice this in many different kinds of architecture, but usually there's this thing of like constricting the height at the vestibule, which then blows up into the nave when you walk into the church. And we also do this differently. Like in a synagogue, you might have beautiful height at the vestibule, which then also repeats at the shoal. But my point is, there's always a
contracting and expansion. Yeah.
As well as a building up of this level of, I don't know, impression. Yeah. Right.
So it's layering too, right? I mean, it's like I walk in, you know, maybe if it's a Catholic church, you have the holy water, you're going to do the sign of the cross. If it's at a synagogue, I need to wash my hands. There's these rituals, cultural rituals. That's part of it. And so we need to make space for those processes to occur and for people to, you know, maybe it's just my kid needs to tie their shoes, right? I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people coming and going if it's a large congregation, obviously, but it's, you know, it's just making space for all of these things to happen in one form or another.
As well as other things that we think about, like the yin and yang that we're talking about with respect to frequently height, right? And even light. Yes. So there's going to be the yin, which is like a lower space and it has less light,
a little bit more
intimacy. Yeah. And I might be sitting there with my mom, or a grandma might be sitting there with her grandkids. Yeah. Somebody might be sitting there kind of off on the side, having a quiet conversation or a place to kind of rest and take a moment. Whereas the main space, the vestibule,
grand lobby,
narthex, is like, it's really there to move masses of people or have masses of people just kind of like mingle, a little bit mingle, and like kind of get their mindset of transitioning into walking right into the sanctuary.
The main space. Yeah.
So there's functional, and then we also play with materials.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of materials that we use they mean something to the culture.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if there's something like Jerusalem stone for in a synagogue, if there's anything that has a cultural meaning for them, it's great. I mean, we did a church that was for, Armenian Orthodox. And so same thing. They have, the Tooth stone. I can't ever say it right, but it's very, it's authentic. It's like, it's so personal to them. And so we want that, whatever that material is, maybe it's an olive tree, maybe it's a, whatever
tree
that
of life.
Exactly.
Sure.
So there's so many ways to to speak to something in a very subtle way that if you're not part of that group, you might not know the significance of that little touch. But, you know, we want to make sure we bring that into the space.
Well said. So, and there's all the cultural things that we've learned along the way.
So
much fun.
Yeah.
Truly so much fun. I was raised in the Armenian system.
Right.
And, you know, it is what it is. Like, there's all kinds of rituals that we have in our church, and some of it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Like
Absolutely.
The liturgy is wonderful. It's ancient. And the
incense,
the incense, the atmosphere,
just,
the choir. I mean, the music from Gomidas is like ultimately like just gorgeous stuff that touches the soul. But can I tell you, there are aspects of this culturally. So as a female architect,
of course,
I am not able to stand on the altar where the priest is.
Yeah.
It's just a platform, probably built from plywood, has some carpet on it, but you know, it is what it is. But this is the rule.
Once it's blessed,
and I'm
respectful. It's a special space. Exactly.
So we have rules on the Jewish side as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So that, I mean, obviously there's varying degrees of everything, but Orthodox, you know, they have the men and women separate.
Sure.
And so that's great. Yeah.
And what did I do the first day that I walked up
too.
to an Orthodox rabbi is I wanted to shake his hand, and I'm like, holy moly.
Yeah, you just, the instinct is natural. The first time you meet someone, you want to shake their hand, but no. Yeah.
So now I know a lot better.
Yeah.
And now we're pros.
Absolutely.
We, you know.
Kosher kitchens. I mean, there's so many, I don't want to say rules. That's such a weird way of saying it, but
I call it, they're rules. I like, it's a,
I need to know what rules to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We will respect them. And honestly, just because sometimes being outside of the culture, what does that do? It gives us the freedom.
Permission, to ask all these dumb questions of like, why do you do it this way? And then to understand like biblically, like where that comes from and why we do it. Exactly. So I think one thing that you and I definitely both have in common is that like, we want to learn. Like we're so curious about all of this. And I think, I mean, again, growing up in Southern California, we couldn't help but be like this, right? It's like, you know, I went to school with Mormons and Catholics and Jews and, you know, all different faiths. And so to learn, you know, those varying degrees of things, I mean, it's just so, I've always been like intrigued by it. I love that ritual aspect of it, like you were even saying. And I mean, I don't know how many bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs I went to as a middle schooler myself, just from my friends who were going through that process. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, it's so cool that they get to learn Hebrew, like this weird language. Yes. And like, as I'm this teen, you know, preteen, like it was just so intriguing. So I love learning about it. I know you do too. And so just to be able to get that insight of like where it comes from, and then also to see how much we do have in common. I feel like so many faiths have different, you know, these different little rituals, but they are based in you know, it comes back to the same Bible. So
and I like to say, which side of the Bible are you on? Is it old or new? Like, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. So it's really cool.
It's also very, very interesting from an architectural standpoint, because we as, I guess, we are always looking for the best, how do you say, outcome or the best benefit to our clients.
Yeah.
So sometimes the questions that we ask are very useful for them too, because it's like, don't take anything for granted.
Right.
You know, there's a ritual, for example, I forget what it's called now that I'm talking about it, but I'm still going to talk about it. There's a ritual for some Orthodox to bathe. Yeah. Right after having a menstrual period or whatever.
Exactly.
To cleanse. And in some places that is part of the entire complex of the synagogue. Right?
Yeah.
And some places it's not. Why one? Why not the other? That's something, you know, it's like it's a thing for the stakeholder, for the rabbi and the rebbitzin to decide.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, you've got multiple washing stations.
Because at different times, I mean, it depends, and we want to make sure that the space is flexible. I mean, I think that's the other aspect of it, right? Like, we don't want to be designing this amazing space and then have it only be used once a year for that one element, right? So we have to be able to have the space ebb and flow and expand and contract like we were describing. And there's different, you know, at different times of year, different things are happening. But, you know, if we can add an extra hand washing station somewhere, now all of a sudden that space could become, we could gather twice as many people on, you know, for somebody's bar mitzvah or bar mitzvah, or we could gather twice as many people for something else if there's a wedding or whatever it is. And so by just adding one little extra element, it now makes a different space usable for a different function that might not have been thought of. And so asking why do we have this here?
Right.
You know, and sometimes it's just as simple of as, well, that's how the church was when the church where I grew up, that's how we had it. And it's like, well, that might not be the best reason for something to be that way, right? And so just thinking about like where biblically is it, right? And so like we'll follow those rules. I'll follow the biblical rules, but not just because, oh, that's how, you know, my old priest always did it that way. Well, you know, that might have just been his preference.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Exactly.
You know, same thing as like the expectation of what a shul should look like or what a church should look like.
Yeah.
So when it comes to heights of ceilings, it could be something very simple. The understanding of proportion, the understanding of how much light and the acoustics. Exactly. So acoustics is like a
different thing.
It is a it's a deal killer. It's like it's something that has to happen. So across the board for all of these beautiful, you know, functions. And these religions.
And the nightclub, obviously, the bar and nightclub. If you can't have a conversation with someone,
people are coming together for the music.
Yeah, exactly.
So you may as well make it a comfortable environment.
Exactly.
And also heighten the beauty of what is being voiced,
happening,
or sung, or performed. Because you and I have both been into spaces where, gosh, the acoustics weren't figured out, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be there because it's too loud. And the waves of sounds are kind of blending into each other in a very weird way.
And when someone is this close to you, you can't even have like a whispered conversation on the side because it's like so it's crazy. So so it's definitely a delicate balance.
Right.
And again, we want the space to be flexible, right? We want to be able to have, like we could have a women's tea in here at one time. We could have a grand, you know, a band doing a performance, you know, or whatever. And so we want to make sure that these rooms can be used for different functions without killing one or the other.
We want them to be what we call live enough so that the music reverberates in a very cool way, but also control it and have the flexibility, like you said, so that we can transform it in a way where if you have a banquet or if you've got a tea happening, that it all of a sudden isn't so loud
that you feel like you're in this cavern or something,
and you want to leave in half an hour because of it.
Because you can't sit there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so maybe that's curtains. Maybe that, you know, there's layers of details that we can add to just kind of make it flexible that you could pull back or close, you know, to make something change. But I mean, again, the nightclub I remember that other example, the one we just completed, you know, we had a number of little, you know, sitting areas that are around the perimeter. Main dance floor, retro light up dance floor was amazing. That's where all the, you know, bottle service was and all those seats around it. But, you know, there were alcoves with lower ceiling, you know, different little vignettes where you could sit and a smaller group could gather. Because it depends, right? Like some nights you don't want to be in this up in front in the center. You want to have a little side conversation.
You know, one thing we should touch upon a little bit more is lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So the lighting, whether it's natural or it's artificial, both of those are underestimated in so many venues that I go to. Venues, functions. So the way that the old masters used to do it in a Gothic church, you didn't have windows.
No.
Except, well, no, I take that back. You do have Gothic churches, like, for example, the one in France, I forget what it's called, that is all glass on the walls.
Oh, yeah. What is that?
What it's called. Anyway,
okay.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
But
for the most part, it was like stained glass elements that you had filtered light.
Light is controlled. It is controlled to the point of whether it is stained glass on the windows or there's absolutely no windows and it's only at the top.
Yeah.
So your eyes are drawn to the top, like the Hagia Sophia.
Yes.
Your eyes are drawn to the top and you're looking at a huge dome that has all this the window like lacing all around the perimeter of the dome. And you're like wondering, how is this giant thing
even floating in space,
floating above my head? So that technique is used a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But then you use, so, and it's also this, it's like, there's a factor of, I'm not staring at that light in the darkness all the time because it's above my head. But if I'm looking straight ahead at whatever's happening in front of me, whether it's at the altar or I don't have a glare that is bothering me all day long.
Yeah.
So I've been to so many of these venues where there's so much darkness, right, inside the space, but I might have 2 windows in front of me from that darkness, and guess what? It's like a cave.
It's blinding.
You're looking at this blinding, like glaring thing that you're also, and if it's done in the incorrect way, then you're also looking at a stage, or an altar, that is like placed in the middle of these 2 blinding things. The discomfort of that, of having to be there and do that for an hour to 2 hours is so harsh on the eyes. You get so tired.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is why we like to position the platforms and the stages away from windows, and we balance the light between the interior and what's happening on those windows.
Exactly. Right? And if we want light there, it's stained glass, it's something like that, or obscured glass of some kind. So it's more, it's muted. It's not that sharp glare. And again, for privacy too. I mean, obviously it depends where we are and where this building is sited, but if most churches and synagogues are in neighborhoods, they have residential, functions right nearby. Maybe there's an apartment building on the back side. Maybe there's a neighbor on the other side. So we want to be respectful of that surrounding as well. So it's like, you don't want to be like, hey, we're having church, like it's a little, there's obviously a balance there of, we want natural light. We want to get it in there, but in a subtle way.
And conversely, a nightclub is trying to create that artificially.
Exactly.
Right? So your dance floor might be lit, completely illuminated from the bottom up.
Exactly.
As well as a little bit from the top down, right? With different kinds of things. But it's really like the Disneyland of lighting. You can do anything you want and have fun with it.
Yeah.
But usually you've got the focal point on the stage, what's happening there, and something happening at the dance floor. Yeah. So at least you can see what you're doing and not trip over people.
And not kill yourself. Yeah,
exactly. But in the funnest way possible, which is like, it is an entirely different experience, but kind of related too. Because even in our churches and synagogues, we do have artificial lighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we use very, very strategically.
Absolutely.
Like one thing that we've been doing lately is the cove lighting, obviously.
It's
which is
very,
like, it's not nothing
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. But to have like the primary source of lighting and the secondary source of lighting and the third, these are all layers.
Indirect, and it's indirect. It's not the glare. It's just like in the cove, uplit or whatever. And it adds to that drama. Right. It just elevates the space in a different way instead of just your boring, office type ceiling.
And something that is so simple, because we love providing, like, obviously you can tell from the way we're talking, we love providing options. Yeah. We love providing flexibility in whatever's designed. We love seeing it in other designs and with other architects. Yeah. So the given thing is, when you're doing lighting and even acoustics, like we mentioned, you want to be able to offer choices. And like I said, whether it's the first, second, or third form of lighting, you might have like perimeter lighting. You might have that as an ambient lighting. Exactly. You might have sconce lightings and chandeliers. All kinds of things that, when you layer, becomes a beautifully illuminated space. But when you kind of like dim, and the key word here is dim, to provide the options.
A little sexy lighting.
Right? Because who wants to go to a banquet where you've got like light, like,
and you feel like you're under a spotlight,
or it's enough to do surgery under. It's like, that doesn't work for when I want to dance. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Dim those lights down, people. Anyway, so these are like sometimes no-brainers. Right. But it is shocking to me how it is overseen.
And it can be an afterthought. Yeah.
So the commonality between all these spaces, again, is people want to come together. They want to eat. They want to dance. They sometimes, most of the time, maybe want to drink, given the cultural setting or the religious circumstances. Yeah. And they want to hang out. They want to have spaces to talk, dance, gather, laugh, cry, do all of it.
Yeah, exactly. The full range of the human experience happens at these places, right? So I mean that it's so funny how common some it's just, we need to be able to have those intimate moments. Someone's going through something rough. Will you pray for me? Like, you go to you have these small, right, that quiet time, right, where you need to have that connection with just someone one-on-one versus in a full worship service where there's music going, there's a band, we're all singing together, and it's just such a different, that fellowship together is so different. Exactly.
One of the things that we've been doing a lot of lately is also offering exterior spaces that are serving these functions alongside the interior spaces.
Yep.
Because even what we do for homes, the indoor, outdoor aspect,
we're in California.
Absolutely happening for all of the different types of buildings that we're talking about.
Exactly.
So our churches have courtyards.
Yes.
Our synagogues have courtyards.
Yep. Absolutely. The nightclub has seating on the street, right? I mean, I feel like, especially since COVID, most cities
they have lounges.
Still have these have these ordinances where you can have, sidewalk dining or whatever it is,
or
set up tables,
a lounge that is adjacent so I can
in
go
a
outside
private courtyard.
And
exactly.
Just have a kind of get away from the music for
take
tiny
a deep
little
breath,
bit, even though there might still be something happening in the background.
Exactly.
But just
take a breather, get a little fresh air. Yeah. No, it's amazing. Again, we're in California. You would think it would be a no-brainer, but so many times that thought of connecting something to the outdoors, adding those big multi-slide doors, to be able to have a sanctuary, have indoor, outdoor. It's
part of wellness.
Exactly.
And it does not stop at the house. It continues to these. And another thing that doesn't stop with a home is the design of a kitchen. And so I'm going to go back again.
Food is like
how a commercial kitchen is thought through.
Oh man. Yeah.
Talk to me, Katie.
Well, there's just so many, there's so many ways that you can skin this cat, as they say. it depends on the function of your congregation or your bar or restaurant. But we have, there's just, you want it to be flexible. You want it to be, you want to be able to have, if it's just, a Rebbitzin making, challah one afternoon, she needs to make bread or whatever. Or if it's, I'm going to have a group of kids come in and we're going to do a cooking class to teach them how to make, I don't know.
Dolma.
I'm like, give me some good Armenian food. Exactly, some dolma, right? We need to all gather around a big work table, and we're all gonna learn this amazing, thing from our cultural heritage. Or it's a nightclub or a restaurant that it's efficiency, right? And so I need to be able to have waiters come in and out, and make it be seamless.
Right. And who's using it? Sometimes we might have a caterer.
Exactly.
And so that caterer is going to have their requirements. I'm happy to say that a caterer has looked at our kitchen and said, this works.
We're good. Exactly.
We are so good. So I'm like, there's a process of thinking things through that sometimes does take weeks to months.
Absolutely.
We typically have a professional kitchen consultant on board because professional
to recommend specific equipment,
take some thinking needed. That is, down to the details and the eighth of an inch tolerance. But they've got or even 16th.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just going to say, the same thing goes with flexibility though, right? You want to be able to, you don't know how your church or your group is going to grow, right? Over time. You might have 50 people in your congregation right now, but God willing, you're going to grow.
Yes.
And so, once you have 200 people, 300 people in your congregation, then what? What are you going to do?
Right.
So if you think, so I don't want to say short-sighted, but if you have a minimal idea of we're not going to need a big commercial kitchen. It's just going to be we just need it for basic stuff. And then, in 2 years,
you've already outgrown
it. That would break my heart, obviously. That would be the worst. We would not have done our job. Right. And so we just want to be able to plan ahead for different kinds of growth. One thing we talk about is the school, right? So with the church and with the synagogue, both of them have a classroom aspect to it. And so we want to be able to have spaces where little kids can come in and it not be a total nightmare.
Yeah.
So
What?
what? Toddlers are crazy. So
Right?
I mean, I think some of it's just that too, is thinking ahead and being like, okay, well, we don't have that many kids in our group right now, but what if we do? What about teens? Is there a space we can put teenagers so they feel included, but they also can kind of have their own space before they're fully,
Right.
they've gone through their bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, and now they're the real adults and they can
Yes.
come into the full service or whatever it is. So we want to just have these spaces that they might be connected to the kitchen or not. It just depends on how we use all these different spaces. So
Right.
yeah.
So then coming to kitchens, we have kosher kitchens that we've designed. And it comes down to zoning.
Yeah.
Even a commercial kitchen comes down to zoning. So it's just that it's times 2 for a kosher kitchen.
Yep.
Maybe even times 2.5. Right.
Right.
So we've in a typical home, we used to have the work triangle,
Right.
which was the distance between the refrigerator, the sink, and the oven. Would need to equate to 27 feet or less. Right. That was
That's the
thing.
olden days.
Old days. They're gone. Now we're talking about zones, right? And we've been doing this for the zones have been part of the conversation, I want to say, for the last decade.
Yeah, easily.
In
15
years.
20 years even, maybe.
So that comes from the commercial kitchen zone.
Yeah.
World. That comes from, I have a washing area. I have a cooking area. I have a prepping area. I have a storage area. I have a storage area that is split into 2. It's got dry storage and refrigerated. Cold storage, which then also has a freezer portion.
Yeah, exactly.
So all of that, including the functionality of having multiple people in a kitchen at the same time and how they don't get in each other's ways, comes from the commercial world.
Exactly. Yeah, and we've all been there, right? I mean, who's been to their aunt's house or whatever for Thanksgiving, and you're trying to help and you're just in the way, right? Because you can't help. Oh, let me just help get that dish out of the way, or whatever it is, and it's just a monster of a mess in the kitchen. So to think about it as like, okay, I'm going to be the chopper, and so I'm going to be right here at this prep table, and all I do is dice, and someone else is, like you said, at the dishwashing station, and then everyone has room to move in their specific zone without stepping on each other's feet, and then we end up with someone cutting themselves or burning themselves.
Nope, not allowed. No getting bumped. No getting none of that.
Yeah.
And so then we also have the staging section.
Yeah.
The staging section is important because we've got carts and things that are lined
Plates,
up for people, for the wait staff to essentially load up the carts or store them in the freezer or the refrigerator if they're walking, obviously. But to be able to facilitate serving and to also collect afterwards.
And exactly, clearing.
When we're talking about a kosher kitchen, just going back to the zones. We now have a meat zone. We now have a dairy zone. We have a parev, which is the neutral grounds, which doesn't necessarily, I think it is kind of its own little corner, but it doesn't have to be as big. And the percentages change depending on the group, who your stakeholder is.
Yep, exactly.
So I've heard 90% meat to 10% dairy. I've heard 80% meat to 20% dairy and a little bit more than that. Yeah. So it is what it is. Yeah. Happy to work through. But these require what? Double appliances.
Extra appliances, extra counters, extra, even just the cookware, right? I mean, I don't use the same dishes that I would use in the dairy area. So I need double the pots and pans. I need double the storage to accommodate all of that stuff. So it really, it can get quite intense. Yeah.
Including double islands, you said, right? Or I don't know if we said, but double islands, double everything. I mean, we're talking about carts sometimes that have to be doubled up now because now we have meat dishes being served
in a different way. Yeah.
Right. And requirements of, the cold storage, I think is fine. Yeah. We can overlap the two. But really you talked about the dishwashing. Now we also have storage needs.
Yeah.
We have storage needs for both churches and synagogues, but it is probably double for the synagogue because now they've got meat plates and dairy plates
and the Passover. Exactly. Right. And again, I mean, every church, they have, they're going to have special decor for Easter that they don't use for any other holiday. They're going to have special centerpieces and drapes to put up on the cross or whatever it is. And so, all of that stuff adds up. I mean, there is so much storage that's needed based on any, like you were saying, this liturgical calendar.
Right, exactly. I mean, Easter is one
Yeah.
thing, Christmas is one thing. Now going back to the fun zone for nightclubs.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I've got a liquor room.
Yeah.
I need to store and lock that liquor room because I'm not going to have it all at the bars.
Right.
So usually in everything that we've worked on, there's this hidden room that is behind the manager's office or something
Right.
that basically has like a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Liquor. And the bar itself is also zoned. It is
Absolutely.
zoned like a kitchen.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I've got exactly ice, dishwashing. I mean, it just depends on what your menu is. So, I mean, again, this is where we definitely have a kitchen consultant on board just to help us do a bar layout also.
Right on.
Because they're so specific to what kind of cocktails do you mix? Are you beer and wine only? Do you know what I mean? Like there's plenty of, I mean, we did a restaurant that it was just bottled beer. They had nothing on tap. So they liked to use, everything was in just cold,
Right?
like buckets. They would put,
Right.
the beer in ice buckets, and that was the quickest and best way for them to keep the beer cold. And so it
As
just
opposed
depends.
to the entire back system of the carbonation
Exactly.
and tap that has to keep running. But that's a whole line of plumbing just for it's
exactly just for beer. So yeah, it's that can go a whole another direction altogether. Exactly.
Right. And so we have rules of, like we're talking about alcohol. I just want to touch base on this. We have wine service rules in religious buildings. So
Absolutely.
we are going to have days where it's allowed, days where it's not allowed. And then going to the how to get it, where the nightclub's going to require a liquor license.
Right.
And what do what do the churches and synagogues have as their equivalent? CUP?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
they'll have, there'll be a special approval process that you have to go through, obviously, to be able to have a function there. And obviously the understanding is that you're not serving, communion wine to,
Correct.
I'm
not selling
random
it to, like,
minors
some-
on the street,
Exactly.
and so like
It's
people
for my parish.
the
It's
people who
for
are
my
there
people
are
that
members of that church or members of that group, and exactly there's a level of security to your alcohol
Right.
service that are are being monitored.
And nightclubs need CUPs too, but their
Right.
liquor license is always separate.
Yeah.
And there's good reason for that, obviously, because they need to have, the city always needs some leverage, right? In
Right,
terms
to
of
be
the
able to
use
control you.
of
Yeah.
alcohol. And it's all good, we all are, we love our nightclubs, we love our restaurants.
Well, and it depends too. I mean, if it was an existing facility that we're just doing a TI on, or is it a brand new structure that's going up? I mean, again, I'm thinking of a golf club
Right.
we were just doing. It was a clubhouse for a golf club.
Yep.
And had a very nice restaurant on one side and then a couple of bars on the other side. So they had a different vibe across it. But there was an existing, it had an existing use. It was already there. And so we're not doing the CUP from scratch. It was,
Right.
it already existed. So,
So
yeah.
all these spaces they're designed for human experience.
Right.
And most of the time, they're excellent additions to the community. They're wonderful ways of revitalizing some older
Neighborhoods,
communities and neighborhoods. They become a point of destination if done correctly.
Yeah.
Most of that's our goal, right? So
And it's just ways for people to grow. I mean, I think it's so many times it's a way for like this older generation, right, to be able to hand down their information or their,
Right.
that culture,
Yep.
to the younger generations. And so that's the only way that some young families might connect to someone who's older than them, right? Like they
Right.
might have family who lives across the state or lives somewhere else. And so to come to a church and be part of that congregation, they can be with people, you make friends with people in different generations. It's like it can be a very beautiful thing, right? We don't all just stay in our little bubble. And so I think,
All good. So just going back to altars really quick.
Yeah.
I mentioned that I am of the Armenian Eastern Orthodox faith, right? Or at least raised in it. And there's all kinds of things about the altar that are...
Yeah, you build up to this procession.
Yes.
And it comes to this
it's the thing that should be the pinnacle
Right.
of my experience, and it should be the one that, like in a Gothic church I mentioned, you know, the height is like one of the things that we use, like have been used historically
The
to
dome.
inspire awe.
Yeah.
And the altar is kind of that thing too, where we've got, you know, the priest standing up there along with, sometimes it's very ornate, like in the Eastern Orthodox traditions. Sometimes it's very, very simple with absolutely no symbolism, like
Just like a stage. It's just it's
Episcopal
like
or Protestant kind of situation where you've got a lot more simplicity.
Right. I mean, it could be the equivalent of like a school theater is how I picture it, right? Like a nice a good high school theater, right? Where it's just a clean stage. Maybe it's a black backdrop or, you know, something simple that gets, you know, decorated seasonally. But for the most part, it's just basic. Yeah. Clean, modern.
And done well. I always want to say, I always want to see light. I want to see the indoor-outdoor aspect continue.
Exactly.
Even with the altar. Sometimes I know the priest or even a rabbi in the synagogue or in a shul at the ark, like that ark is also the focal point.
Absolutely. The Torahs are there. That's it.
That's it. But it may not be like the indoor-outdoor aspect has to be kind of mitigated or just
subtle, a little more subtle. Yeah.
Because, you know, depending on who the stakeholder is, you may want to control the focus so that people aren't looking outside at their kids playing or somebody walking by, depending on what we're talking. I mean, ideally, I want to look at a tree or some sky or something that's natural that people can feel very zen with.
Yeah, it's connecting you to creation, to God through that, right? I mean, all of this world is God's creation. So if I can be looking at something green or the sky, it's, you know, it touches the soul. So for sure. Right.
And then just to talk about nightclubs from that standpoint of how does that nightclub elevate me? Well, I might have a DJ booth.
Yeah.
And that DJ booth might have some light forming on it. Some beautiful kind of like the Sphere at Las Vegas.
The technology there is amazing.
It turns into something that is completely different. I might want to make some natural aspects happen on stage. I might bring a whole like whatever rocks and forests and lights that are like bouncing around.
Yeah.
It can just elevate us to a different way of being, even in that
in that theatrical kind of aspect.
Music
Absolutely.
to it. It's quite amazing. I know we're using light forming a lot, and we're trying to bring it into some of the luxury homes that we're doing. So we'll come back to that in another episode. Yeah. But I think there's so much to say.
So much potential. And there's very cool ways to, again, I mean, where real estate is at a premium and you might not have the space to do a whole waterfall or a whole whatever, you know, you can do some very cool stuff with projections that really still connects you to something beyond.
Right. So one other thing that I forgot to mention that I want to mention right now is how people worship. Yeah. Right. Going back to church and going back to synagogue. So the vestibule, like that we talked about or the narthex
lobby
for a church
vibe.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm Catholic, I have a nice, like, I don't know what the Catholics call the scarf, but basically it's a scarf for women to put on their head so that they go into the nave, into the actual sanctuary without an uncovered head. Right. Right. It's a form of respect. Got it. And then, of course, when in the Jewish faith,
the men have yarmulkes.
The men have yarmulkes. Sometimes that's in the shul. Sometimes it's outside the shul.
Exactly.
That's all.
Right. But yeah, we need space for that. I need people to be able to get themselves situated as they enter. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you walk into the nave of this church, right, that I'm thinking of, or the shul of a synagogue, we've got different ways of people. Like, I cannot just sit anywhere in a synagogue. Right. I've got a mechitza, which is a little separating thing, divider. Yeah. So if I'm a woman, I'm on side. The left, and I'm a man, I'm on the right. Yes. And at the right, I've got the bima, and I don't have an equivalent for that in the church, except that perhaps it's an elevated little area, right, in some churches where the Bible is being read.
Yes. Or maybe it's the choir, right? You might have a choir, stands for a choir on the one side, or, you know, a balcony above you that's for an organ and a choir. So there are different ways of using elevation, you know, depending on how your church is set up. And again, depending on how much square footage you have to deal with, right? So sometimes the site might impede certain things. You know, we were talking about the orientation, right? So it's like, if
I'm Christian,
I need to be facing east.
right?
If I'm Jewish, I'm facing Jerusalem, which obviously here in California is east, but it could be any direction depending on where you're at. But
Right.
what if my street runs north-south or east-west, and now I'm looking right at the street, you know? So it just depends on how...
That's where we got some creative architecture that merges with some landscape architecture, and we figure it out.
Exactly. So it can really transform that space depending on what the needs are of that specific orientation.
So what I love about this conversation is how architecture responds to rules. These are the cultural and religious rules that literally translate into what the building looks like, how the floor plan lays out, how it looks on the exterior,
how it's being used. I mean, we have to work. It's like we're reverse engineering what needs to happen in that space, and then we say, okay, so let's make the space around that need.
Right. Yeah. And the closest thing that I can think of in a nightclub, again, going back to that, or restaurants, honestly, we can just get a box and we can do anything we want in a box for a nightclub or a restaurant. But ideally, again, we want to have the indoor-outdoor aspect connected. So that usually leads to, where is the functionality of a nightclub? Where is my loading zone? Where is my...
all the back of house stuff.
Where's the loudest part of that nightclub? How do I keep it, kind of away from people if that's an issue on the exterior for the community? Like, I don't want it next to a house.
Right.
Like, not that it's going to be. But just as far away from the residences, around it as possible.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's probably the one thing that if you've never worked in a restaurant or you've never, like, been a part of a food service type job, you wouldn't realize how much stuff is behind the scenes at a bar or a restaurant or a nightclub. So, I mean, I think that most people, like a theater, right? I mean, you think of, oh, I'm in the seats, there's a theater, there's probably a couple dressing rooms in the back, and call it a day. No, there's so much behind the scenes that's not seen, that I think really... It's just, how do we leverage those spaces when we do the layout to our best advantage? So we're not blocking off light, or we're not blocking off a connection somewhere where we could. So that kind of site plan, bubble diagram of like where things go in the plan can really be a fun way, it's a fun puzzle to figure out like what's the best use of this space, how should these things be connected or separated. I've got kids, I've got booze, I've got loud noise, quiet spaces, getting all of that to shuffle around.
Well, we touched on the fact that these developments or these campuses usually have a lot of things going on. So it's not just a place of worship. That place of worship has offices. It has perhaps a kind of a school or daycare function. And it could have, like I said, the outdoor spaces along with the indoor spaces. I guess the point being is we have to think about, if I'm getting married at a church,
I don't want to be on the basketball court.
What is my sense of arrival if I'm the bride?
Right.
Where does my mom sit? Like to sit with me if I'm getting ready. Where does the photographer enter from? All of these little things that people just take for granted, like where's my bridal party going to be? And is there enough room? How do I if I'm in a bridal dress, how do I use the restroom? Right? Like, very simple idea, but like, how do I use the restroom when I've got this gigantic like balloon of a dress around me? And because that really requires assistance.
And all my guests, trying to say. And again, when all my guests are already gathered, I don't want to be going out into the main bathroom, while we're still prepping.
I want to have my own private area.
Exactly.
And so all of that, like, and if I have to wait around for an hour and a half, like, just to be comfortable.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because I still want to be in the zone on my most important day of the year or my life, really. Yeah.
Well, and balance that with the caterers, right? Like, somebody needs to go take a smoke break. I don't want them in the same space as everybody else too. So you got to be able to balance, the behind the scenes, the bride's experience and the guests of the wedding, the congregation all at the same time. So it's a lot of
thought.
It's a lot of like synchronized swimming.
Exactly. It's a lot of thought. And then of course, somewhere on the campus, we usually have a playground.
Right.
Didn't touch upon this yet, but we need to address it because part of the sanity we bring to the equation is that I've been a young mom at one point.
Oh,
You
my
are
goodness.
a young mom.
Yes.
And the idea that I have to balance my own life, I want to go to church, but I might have a toddler. I might have 2 kids, 3 kids. And the older ones might be able to kind of like do their own
be
thing and be
self-sufficient.
self-sufficient. But I still need to be there with a baby or a toddler.
Yeah. Keep my eye
And
on them. Yeah.
What do I do with them? So I might have a playground, which isn't for all ages,
Right.
but it is just enough to give sanity to that young mom or young dad.
To be
Or
able
the
to
grandmother.
want to come, but then they
Yeah.
want to come and be part of this congregation, be part of the
Correct.
fellowship. Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen like I want to say the little sound booth where
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in an Armenian church, but I have seen it in other
Yeah.
churches, and I've like really awed at this
Yeah.
as a female,
Yeah.
going, wow, there's a sound booth for babies.
For the baby. Yeah.
Whoever thought of that
Yeah.
beautiful idea? It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, that's great. So there's all kinds of stakeholders.
Right.
There's going to be things that we talk about and we want to address and make
Yes,
sure that
yes.
pretty much everyone is at some form comfortable
Right.
with what.
Or at least
yeah.
we've talked about it, right? I mean,
Right.
if that's the kind of thing where, you know what, that actually doesn't fit for our congregation, fine. But at least we've
We've
asked
talked
the
about it.
question.
We discussed
We've
it.
talked to the rabbi and the rebbitzin. We've talked to the priest. We've had that conversation and been like, okay, we're going to decide X instead of Y. That's fine.
Right.
But at least we're bringing up these different questions of what do you want your congregation to look like? Because, you know, by providing certain facilities, you are going to attract different people to your congregation and different, you know,
Certainly.
so it's going to change the dynamic
Right.
over the years as your group grows, as your facility grows. So it
Yeah.
can all be for the better.
Right down to the youth groups.
Exactly.
Right down to the senior groups.
Yeah.
So the different age levels of everyone using the facilities needs to be addressed, and we'll bring that up, and
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
Like for example, we might want a gaming room for teens,
Yeah.
just so that they grow up with the congregation. That's your youth group,
Yeah.
right? It might be someplace that they just meet, and it might be an overlapping thing on one of the offices, so that
Exactly.
it's not a dedicated room, but it's basically dual function.
Right.
And it could be that you have a place.
Card tables for people. Yeah.
Seniors
Whatever.
playing cards,
Yeah.
bingo, like
Bingo night,
that's
exactly.
what happens at the
Yeah.
social hall.
Yeah.
It might be that they volunteer because
Exactly.
seniors sometimes are like dying to do something and they're
Yeah.
bored, and
Yeah.
it's a great way for them to volunteer. So definitely get them engaged beyond asking for donations. Get them engaged.
Just get them plugged in. Yep.
right. So
Yeah.
like you had
That's
mentioned.
my greeter.
Yeah, you mentioned the rebbitzin making challah, which,
Yeah.
by the way, yes, thank you very much. Anytime I will have.
I will
some
take your
challah.
yeah.
But like there might be lessons on making challah,
Right.
which I know
Yeah.
like
Would
Hani
love.
does.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
And another thing I want to mention is for special needs kids.
Oh yeah.
So we have we've seen this done very successfully where there is a sensory room.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this sometimes gets too much for people with
Absolutely.
autism, you know, or like just sensory, conditions and I not conditions, but issues, right?
Yeah.
Where, like somebody has, like my daughter, for example, sometimes she can't take loud noise so much.
It's just overwhelming.
Like for an hour
Yeah.
or two,
Overstimulated.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
right. So whatever, but like everyone's got their thing.
Yep.
I need a break sometimes.
100%. I need a break.
But
Often.
a sensory room just
Yeah.
allows for
Yeah.
for someone to be able to
Decompress.
decompress.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Thank you very
And
much.
I think again, it could be a dual function room. Maybe that's where the mom with the newborn can go to breastfeed.
Right.
But it can also be, you know, at a different time of day, it can be that sensory room for other kids. So there's ways to make these spaces, you know, with good storage and you know, a nice couch, we can make something function in multiple ways, and that way you are
Yeah.
appealing and welcoming and inviting people from across the board, you know.
Right. We
Yeah.
have all kinds of stakeholders.
Yeah.
Like we've discussed, and we will continue to uncover that as we work on more projects.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I want to just say that at the end of the day, we're designing a nightclub,
Yes.
a sanctuary, or a taco bar, whatever we are designing. It's about creating space for people to connect.
Yeah, and sometimes that just means we need to ask questions beyond just the typical, okay, did that light switch get, you know, wired correctly, our normal punch list kind of items. And so, you know, we want to think about how people gather, how we come together, how we celebrate, how we grieve, and then also just as the stakeholder, if you as the leader of this group, whether you're the bar manager, the rabbi, or the priest,
Right.
What do you want people to go away with? How do you want them to feel
Exactly.
after they've had this experience, that memory? What do you want them to go away with, and how can they take that into their week, into their life,
or longer?
or
and
longer?
What's your long-term vision for this?
Exactly.
Right. We're happy to provide like something that flexes and ebbs and flows with the needs and can grow. Right. So thank you for everyone for joining us. This has been fun. Subscribe, please, and stay tuned for more episodes where we dive into the unexpected overlaps in architecture,
Yes,
and our lives, and all the good stuff. And if you do know a rabbi or a priest or a club promoter who needs a good design team, you know where to find us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Katie and I hope you found it insightful, empowering, and maybe even a little inspiring. We're so grateful to share this space with you. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. There's more to come as we continue architecting bold ideas, even in the face of challenges.